A lot of people, when you say the word psychedelics, think of crazy visuals and crazy colors that you see when you take psychedelic drugs. Do psychedelic trips open the door to messages from God, spirits, transcendent realities, or the devil? Written by Julie J. Exline, William A. Shute, Kathleen C. Pate, and Joshua A. Wiltz from the Department of Psychological Sciences at Case Western Reserve University. How can they study this? Well, they recruited around 2,000, a little over 2,000 adults from the United States. All adults were offered compensation for taking this survey, of which only 800 U.S. adults had completed the survey with logical answers. They were recruited to take the survey on the correlation between psychedelics and spiritual messages, with questions like, what drugs have you heard of? Questions about your spiritual religious affiliation, questions about your race and ethnicity, etc. And also questions on just your opinion on psychedelics in general. Majority of participants linked psychological messages more than spiritual messages, which was expected in the hypothesis. But the correlation between psychedelics and spiritual messages were linked with positive attitudes on psychedelics. U.S. adults were recruited to take a 20-minute survey on their attitudes about psychedelics. 2,174 people clicked on the survey, but only 1,020 actually completed the survey, of which 178 participants who showed signs of rushed responding were deleted. 42 who typed random words were deleted, and this left the final number of participants to be 800. 800 participants answered questions about their familiarities with drugs and religious affiliations, cultures, and race. After the data was gathered, they found the averages of each question and compared them to their hypothesis. They also looked at the correlation between positive outlooks on drugs and what type of messages the participant expected to see from those different psychedelics. The most known psychedelic happened to be LSD. The results showed that the majority of participants connecting psychological messages rather than spiritual messages, which again was expected. The second most popular correlation is receiving messages from a psychological dark side or from your true self. And I'm sure all of us, if not many of us, have heard lots of stories about people taking psychedelic drugs and receiving a message from their self in the future or from this really dark spiritual entity. The participants did have experiences or correlated messages from God or the devil were the participants who had a more positive outlooks on psychedelics. It was the people who wished that psychedelic drugs were somewhat decriminalized. Those were the type of people that had experiences of seeing God or the devil or spiritual messages before, or just correlated it. It's hard to say, yes, they do bring messages, but it's also hard to say, no, they can't bring messages. I think all of it has to do with your opinions on psychedelics, and I think that your outlook on psychedelics going into taking psychedelics could really affect how your perception and what your outcome is. Some critiques I had for this article. My first critique was actually a positive critique, and I thought the sample group that was chosen was really strong because it had lots of diversity and different outlooks. I think this makes the results more clear in terms of understanding why people said different things. I do believe that this survey should not have been timed. I think this topic is a really important and broad topic, and I do believe that the participants didn't always get the time they needed to answer accordingly. The discussion section of this article definitely could have been a little stronger. I think all that I read in the discussion was another review of the method. I think that the discussion could have had things about the results and details about what their hypothesis was and details about what the results were and so on and so forth. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk.